Jonathan Milam here with a comparison of a couple of trumpets, and these are probably what would be called Peashooter trumpets. However, I really don't like the term. I just prefer referring to them as narrow wrap models. And both of them, if you can see, we've got a Buescher Mdl 220 from about 1940, and then I have a Continental Clarion. It's a lesser known subsidiary of Conn, and both of these are what they might call Peashooters. The distance from the upper part of the bell and the entry portion from the first slide is just a much tighter configuration than you get on a normal horn. And here you can see another vintage horn. It's a King Silvertone, but you can probably see how much tighter the wrap is on the Peashooter than on the traditional trumpet. You also wind up with, since it's a smaller bell crook, a little longer bell. And frankly, one of the greater impositions of these horns these days is if you have a well-molded case, it might not fit a horn. I've got a Yamaha double trumpet case, which is very popular, comes with all of the Xeno and Artist models. This horn will fit in that fine. This one is a little bit long, actually the lead pipe area. And while the Continental Clarion I don't think was known for its quality, I believe that Conn chose them as somewhat of a lesser priced instrument. You've still got a really fine little horn here. It has the satin silver on the bell and gold wash on the interior of the bell for the audience view. Very nice. And when I purchased this Continental Clarion and Holton Collegiate, which was also in the Peashooter or narrow wrap, I thought that the tone would be very bright and very piercing, and was surprised to find not so at all. Possibly even they might lean a little more towards the darker sound, but I think both of these have extremely nice quality. And we'll give you a shot. We're using a deep V-cup mouthpiece here, and we'll give you an idea what it sounds like, and we'll play a somewhat of an old classic number that accentuates nice tone. And we'll try that with the Continental Clarion now. And we'll try that with a mouthpiece that will give it a little more projection and a little more of a bright tone. Isn't that pretty? And this horn does show, sadly, some wear in the silver plating. In fact, through much of the body. I think it's just been worn off. It was not dinged up badly, not dented. Another thing, when they were putting this horn out, I thought initially it might be in the 20s. Someone with a little more knowledge of Continental Clarions contacted me and said it was probably the early 40s. But like horns in the 20s and late teens, there was not a finger hook on the lead pipe. This one was put on, and not all that well. But you do see a little bit of brass underlying the satin coating, but notwithstanding that, a nice horn. And we'll do the Buescher Mdl 220, still a narrow wrap, some call it a Peashooter, with the slightly more cutting mouthpiece. So if you're looking for a horn that will really cut over the band, you might be able to use this. But if you want a horn that has incredible quality, I find that in the Buescher Mdl 220, as well as, surprisingly, the lesser priced, at least in its origin, Continental Clarion. Hope you've enjoyed this. Two Peashooter trumpets, or as I prefer calling them, horns with a narrower wrap. Let me show one other thing. Both of these are similar here. The lead pipe, of course, comes, as I'm facing it, to the right of the valve casing, but you can notice here the lead pipe turns strongly to the left and comes almost straight into the third valve casing. The difference is now we've got the third slide on the other side of the tuning slide. The more modern wrap puts the third slide where this has the coming out of the main tuning slide. So you do have a difference here. The offset is probably 1.5 inches or so. Makes it a little more difficult on these horns to use the third slide for intonation. Frankly, this Buescher is so well tuned, I just don't I don't move the third slide. I find the lip is sufficient to bring it into place. But it is a different wrap, certainly a different feel. However, a very, very nice tone. And both of them, as you might notice, have a smaller bell, probably 4¼ inches. In fact, compared to the King Silver tone, which is smaller than most, and you can see the narrow wrap horns do have a much, much smaller bell. A little better projection probably, a little better carrying quality from not the sharp tone, but the smaller bell flare. Hope you've enjoyed this very much. As always, a pleasure to speak about trumpets, and our hope is that you'll have a great day and the blessings of the Lord as well. Take care.